Hi again then guys, and welcome to another installment of my Sport Mode Online highlights. And for those who are maybe newer to the channel, it's been quite some time, actually a good 2 months or so since we last featured this series, and the main reason why is because my internet was so bad. I switched to a wired connection, and you can see in the event what kind of a difference it makes, so that's great. I can get back into doing this kind of thing properly now. And for this one, it was kind of a different event as well compared to other stuff that I've done. I've raced Super Formulas, Group 3s, Group 4s, some Suzuki Swift stuff, but mostly race cars. This is not only road cars, but it's stock road cars and classics as well. Of course, the classic Dodge Coronet Super B. This was 2 events back to back, and both of those were the same event in that same Dodge. And for those who perhaps don't remember, I am of course still a Category BS player, which is incidentally what a lot of people on GT Planet would also categorize me as well, probably. And as far as these events went, it was interesting. There were a couple of penalties that went back and forth. The second race was definitely smoother, but to get into the events themselves, in the first event I qualified 3rd with a 105.864. which was about, 0.3, just over 0.3, maybe 0.35 behind the leader, who was a Spanish driver. He did a 105.5, so not a huge margin separating quite a few of us in the event, and of course that tends to happen more with one-make racing, especially on a very short track. Then, as far as the race itself went, it was definitely the more drama-filled of the two. I was in 3rd, as I said. The last corner in particular on this circuit is definitely my weakness, and you'll see that for sure through both of these videos. I take it way too slow trying to maneuver on it. Of course, it's a relatively new track as well, and I don't race on this particular variation very much, which of course when you don't have practice, you're not going to be as good as you can be. But as far as the race itself went, on lap 2 I had what I would call a ridiculous penalty, because a guy went off the track in front of me. He was on the grass already. I was on the road, didn't touch him. He turns and hits into me while still on the grass. He remains on the grass, and then somehow I get a 1 second penalty and a hit on my sportsmanship rating. To me, that's kind of ridiculous. In fact, it's very ridiculous, and of course, we have issues like this all the time. It's just really weird when you actually see them, because you hear about them a lot, but for me, for instance, who doesn't race in sport mode as much as many of you guys do, they tend to be a bit rarer for me, so that was unfortunate. It didn't really make any sense to me, but sure, whatever. It was still an interesting event though, because at the 6-minute 20 mark, the guy who was in the lead, who literally qualified first, started in pole, and literally dominated the whole event, I did not catch him. He got a half a second penalty for essentially cutting across a corner, but he didn't really do it deliberately. I don't think. It looked more like an overcorrection of his steering, and it didn't exactly give him any kind of advantage, but it was an advantage for me for sure, because he got half a second penalty. He must have been kicking himself about that, because even though he did cross the line in first place, so as far as possession goes, he dominated the event, qualified first, started first, and stayed first all the way through. And yet I got the win because of that half a second penalty. So of course, overall, I was happy about that, but also kind of sad for him, because he should have won. He certainly had the skill to win. He had the possession of the event, but I ended up winning by 0.154 because of that penalty. But funnily enough, even though he qualified faster and was consistently quicker through the event, I actually got the star at the end for the fastest lap, which was interesting. I didn't expect that to be the case, but I guess some people aren't quite as consistent in the event as they are when it comes to their qualifying time. So that was the story of the first race. Definitely more drama of the two. Not a huge amount of drama in the grand scheme of things, certainly not as much as, for instance, Maverick had in this same event in the community spotlight a few days ago, but still some drama in its own little way, considering that so far I've been pretty fortunate in sport mode. I've had a lot of people who are very good drivers for the most part and who are respectful. Either that, or they're just not quick enough to catch up and hit into me, I guess, sometimes. But as far as the second event went, the guy who was just above me was not in this race, so I qualified second, but the same guy was in it again. This same Spanish driver, he retained the same qualifying time, a 105.5. I actually improved mine from a 105.8 to a 105.6, so still not as quick as him, even though I had the fastest lap in the event itself. So once again, it was another showdown, same car, no tuning, same track, same 2 drivers, and I had improved my qualifier. So as you would assume, I was very keen to see what this event would turn out like. Interestingly though, he was clearly off his game. Either that or he'd given the controller to like his little brother or something to drive instead, because something happened. He was nowhere near as consistent and nowhere near as quick, because I started in second and within 35 seconds I literally got the lead and kept it for the entire event. Now, he didn't fall behind, he maintained between 1 and 3 seconds behind me for the whole thing. So if I'd have made a serious mistake, he would have gotten the win. Or maybe if I'd have, did what he'd done in the last race and got a penalty here or there, it would have cost me the win. But I didn't. And as I think I've said before, even though I'm certainly not the fastest of drivers, I do tend to be fairly consistent with my laps. So I don't make too many mistakes more often than not. And it can cost you, making those small mistakes, as we saw for him in the last event. So it was an interesting swap, because I had possession all the time in this event, apart from the qualifier itself. He seemed to be a bit off his game. Maybe the last event kind of threw him. Maybe he was annoyed. I know for me that can definitely affect my racing line and my racing quality if something annoyed me, for instance, like his penalty. That would have certainly gotten under my skin, so I'm sure that happened for him. And then ultimately I did win that event by about 2.5 seconds. So completely different. It's funny how you can have some of the same people, same track, same cars, same event even, and yet the way a race can go down can be totally different. First race, he had total possession, there was some drama there, some penalties. Second race, I got the lead, kept the lead, no drama, simple. And yet the same people, or some of the same people, were involved. And incidentally, these were of course my, I believe, 18th and 19th victories in sport mode, and for this one I actually got 2 stars for the event, which were, interestingly, once again the fastest lap, and also a clean race bonus as well, which of course I wouldn't have gotten in the previous one thanks to those grass antics. But it was an interesting 2 events, nothing too crazy in this one, of course, not some crazy Le Mans outing or the Nürburgring endurance race or something like that, but I wanted to get back into it, like I said, get back with my internet connection being better, see if I could get back into sport mode and have some fun, and I certainly did. It was cool to be able to use the new Coronet as well. A different kind of challenge, driving those more wallowy classic American cars is kind of my thing anyway, I love it. That last corner is still my weakness on this track, so if you do come across me, you know where to catch me. And as far as these events went, I enjoyed them. They were fairly quick, fairly simple, but overall it was a simple, quick and clean enough way to get back into the sport mode racing that I've been missing for a few weeks, if not probably a couple of months, technically. But that's it overall for this installment of the highlights. If you are new to this series and you like watching online racing highlights and drama and stuff like that, plus my thoughts on the penalty system and various other conversations, then click the playlist here on screen to check out the others, because it's not a particularly long series so far if you do want to catch up. But that's it overall. Of course, I'll see you guys next time, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.